And welcome to episode 74 of the Regenesis LinkedIn Live series. Welcome from CS Rajiv Bajaj, Prem Kumar AS, Thomas Welsh, and from me, Angela Ellery. Today we're talking about tariffs, big, medium or small organisations thriving in de-globalization. It's 2025, and if you look around, it's increasingly clear that we've crossed a threshold. The world is recalibrating. What once looked like a golden age of golden wealth creation now feels more like a story of deepening inequality, broken systems, and diminishing returns for the many. The globalization era, with all its inefficiencies, pushed us into a race to the bottom, chasing lower costs, squeezing workers, and prioritizing margins over meaning. The winners have been few, the consequences have been widespread. This new era, one shaped by tariffs, national interests, and localization, poses a simple but profound question. Can we build a better economy by reconnecting value creation with the places and people who need it most? That's the journey we're talking about today. We'll be exploring what we missed, how we must adapt, and what Regenesis offers in this new chapter. Not just a framework, but as an evolutionary leap forward for individuals, organisations, and nations alike. The news of tariffs has dominated the news in the past couple of weeks. It is unsettling for many. There's much uncertainty about the consequences of these measures. Businesses have considered their options. The impositions of higher tariffs is just one of the many sources of great anxiety experienced across businesses, business life, and a shifting global environment right now. To create an effective response, we must first understand the problems as they affect us personally and consider how we can resolve them as individuals. Only then will we be in a position to influence and inspire others. It's natural to feel shocked, overwhelmed, or worry excessively. Our external environment, the economic, social, and technical change we face is now moving at an exponential pace. And our internal environment, our thoughts and feelings, understandably, may be triggered and disturbed in nature. Yet how we give our attention to this seemingly negative news impacts how we respond and perform, given the complexities of such challenges. So let's begin by understanding how exactly we got here. To kick us off with that reflection, I'd love to welcome my friend and colleague, visionary systems thinker and Regenesis founder, Thomas Welsh.
Thanks, Andrea. You're right. How did we get here? Well, probably the failure of incomplete thinking. So let's talk about that a little bit. What I don't want to do is to point fingers, but if we want meaningful change, we must start with responsibility. The truth is, we've been operating with incomplete thinking. For decades, we've pursued growth as if it were the same thing as value. We've reduced success to money and relationships to transactions. We've optimized for profit and productivity, but really, we've failed to sustain our systems, be they economic, social, or ecological. There's a lot there, but there's something a bit off, and we're all beginning to see it more and more. And it's giving rise to political change because people don't really understand what's happened. They don't know what they want. So they're just choosing something different because it's different. And perhaps nowhere is this more true at the moment than in America, where we've seen the new political elite emerge with a brand new set of ideas, which people are attracted to, principally because they're different from, or they appear to be different from what went before. Whether this is true or not, we've yet all to learn. But nonetheless, it is a moment where the world is being invited, and humanity and our economies and our societies are being invited to take stock and say, can we do better than this? And I think the answer to that is a resounding yes. And that's what we want to talk about today. In hindsight, It's no surprise we've ended up by over-prioritizing objects, products, money, and technologies, and under-investing in relationships between people, sectors, and ecosystems. We've created brittle economies and overwhelmed people. People are just maxed out completely. Research shows that organizations that favor narrow financial KPIs over systemic health are more vulnerable to shocks and more likely to stagnate or break, even as the wind of change whistles past their long-standing, perhaps old arrangements. This is the cost of ignoring complexity. We haven't really got hold of this yet. But the good news is what has been misdesigned can be redesigned. And that is why we're here. That is why we've launched Regenesis in readiness for this era. This is the power of Regenesis. It helps leaders and nations and organizations and managers and founders and all the people that work so hard at attempting to bring together what we need to meet the kind of requirements of our societies and our people and our environments. So what exactly didn't we do that we should have? What did we do that we now regret? And what I'd like to do now is to ask my colleague Prem to come in and talk a little bit about the mistakes that we made along the way, what we could have done that we didn't do, what we did do that we shouldn't have done, and dive into that crucial look back. Prem, can you help us out here? Think your mic might be off, Prem. We still can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, there was a mic thing there. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks for that. With that, I would like to say that looking back to the over last 25 years, that the world we have seen, right? So there have been so many changes that have taken the path, and we have missed many of them, right? And if you really look at, we didn't invest enough in localizing or community driven economics. We didn't even prioritize long term value creation or short term profits. Also, what we did not is nurture the fundamentals of life: clean air, water, trust, health, education. We allowed critical systems to be outsourced and fragmented, losing resilience in the process. And with what we did do wrong, we over financialized everything, treated labor like a cost instead of a core asset. We allowed stakeholders primarily to override national interests. We made speed more important than wisdom. All of these eroded stability and the families, communities, and democracies, which has, if you have lesson, if there is a lesson that we've here learned, is life is unchangeable fundamentals, and when we ignore them, systems fail. Resilience comes from respecting those fundamentals: stewardship, reciprocity, belonging. These are the principles one must become and be the building blocks for the new policy, new models of business, new leadership cultures, to help you understand or reimagine what we have been, what still can be. Please welcome strategic powerhouse and nation builder at heart, my good friend Rajiv, to take it to the next step. Over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you very much, Prem. I think it's a very, very important topic which we are talking about today. And imagine if we had asked different questions 20 years ago, what would make our nation more self-sufficient? How could our businesses be force for national strength, not just shareholders' wealth? If we had taken a more balanced, integrated approach, we might have built more adaptive economies where businesses operate as national asset, serving people first and profit second. So this is how we look at it, because now in the current scenario, it is very important to rebuild the balance, and that balance, of course, every nation has to decide its own course, how they are going to do this balancing act. And There has been lots of things like pandemic, war, or some protectionism every nation is trying to have. One has to uh, uh, recalibrate the national policies, and of course, uh, big organizations also have to reinvent their level of scale at which they are going to build their organization, and how they are going to steer it forward. And of course, the small organization are more flexible, so they can, rise with more balanced approach and more agility. And my experience is that they have more shock absorbing capacity as compared to larger organization. And that is where I think some collaboration over competition has to take place, and the governments would have definitely invested in circular value systems. So organizations would have been required to account for their societal impact. So boards wouldn't just manage risk, they will co-create national resilience. So there's a lot of pressure on the boards. There's a lot of expectation which is there from the boards, and startups won't be built to sell; they'll be built to serve and last. So I have seen out of my experience that many startups, they start with the idea with a very very clear mind that, oh, they are going to sell their startup after some time. But I think that shift has to happen, where startups are actually creating a legacy for them, and they are going to last long and work as big corporations. So that shift has begun already. And when you change the DNA of how things start, grow, and scale, that actually rebuild the balance between the small and larger organizations. And of course, there are regional trade hubs emerging. Of course, digital infrastructure is becoming very critical, and lots of policy support is coming uh, in all countries to for their MSMEs, and how to enhance their export capabilities. And of course, all nations are trying to uh, become more and more self-reliant, and more scalability is being planned by everyone. So this is where Regenesis becomes so vital. It gives every organization, from the smallest MSME to the largest multinational, the framework to operate regeneratively, and it builds alignment, flow, and expansion, not just for financial gain, but for national, human, and environmental benefit. And that is what we stand for. So that is why every week we come to you and we share with you what we stand for, and what are we trying to bring it to you on the table. And I'm sure more and more people are going to align with us on this Regenesis movement, and they are going to understand and join us in this effort to make a change in the way organizations think. And of course, we are going to calibrate your growth, and we are going to rebuild the balance which is required in these uncertain times and testing times. So with this, I'm going to ask Thomas to talk about the key of the journey that we think lies ahead. Over to you, Thomas.
Thank you, Rajiv. I'm going to ask you to stay on mic at the moment, because what you've just said has brought up a couple of really interesting questions for me. One of the things I know that you've done over the years is you've helped in the development of thousands of company secretaries, and you've also had a lot to do with boards and startups and MSMEs and larger organizations. So I know that all that's part of your experience. Do you think we made a mistake somewhere along the journey? Did corporate governance or national guidance for companies and directors, do you think that fell behind, or has this shift that's taken place, has that just changed things so profoundly that we now need to make a lot of changes quite quickly? What are your thoughts on that, Rajiv? I'm curious.
No, Thomas, I don't think that there was any mistake or so. But of course, I think the corporate governance policies and the corporate governance practices were, adopted based on that scenario which was existing in the world, and the kind of global trade and global world order it was there. So all organizations have been trying to follow those best practices which were laid out. And of course, the world also kept on learning after a few big, disasters in terms of companies vanishing from the table, like WorldCom, or we had Arthur Edison, and there are a couple of others who, and in India also, we had Indian names which, had a problem with governance, and simply they vanished from the scene. But after that, Sarbanes-Oxley Act implementation came in. Lots of the world tried to de-risk the whole scenario. But I think, now again, it's time to reinvent the wheel. And we all, whether it is the professionals, company secretaries, or the board members, or the company organizational leadership teams, they all have to sit and understand that how they need to reinvent their policies to cope up with the present situation, and de-risk their organization from all these upheavals which might come in. So but at the end of the day, all organizations, they have to work and make sure that they grow, and they have to work on their profitability model. So I think you are the best person to guide people that, okay, how Regenesis can actually help doing that in this situation. Yeah.
Sure, thank you, Rajiv. All of that was really useful. So what you say, I think, is very true. We had a model fit for the times that used to be in place. Now, it's almost as though, looking back, we've been able to see this coming forever, but we couldn't. We can only see it now. It only seems like this has been coming forever. It was a bit of a surprise when all of a sudden we began to see political change taking place for some reason we didn't understand. And I think the recent elections in a number of countries have made clear that what people are saying, we're unhappy, we're dissatisfied with the way the existing system is working. For the majority of us, we want change. We don't know what change we want, but we want change. And so what we've got is change. And now I think we're all trying to play catch up. So I think those observations that you made were very accurate. That what we had was good for when we needed it then, but now we need something different. It's almost as though we need ESG, which is environment, stakeholders, and governance, but plus, we need that plus. We need to have companies thinking of themselves as guardians of the economy, guardians of society, maybe even guardians of the country, or custodians of the assets of the country. So we need this much more responsible, as Angela was saying in the opening, we need this much more responsible approach. So I guess the good news is this, wherever you are as an organization, a startup, a scale-up, an MSME, a mid-size, or even a multinational, undoubtedly, we know that you already possess many hidden potentials and hidden aspects of growth, which are there right in front of you, but you just can't see them anymore. It's as if they're hiding in plain sight. Now, obviously, the world is in a massive period of adjustment and probably a massive period of learning, again, as Angela mentioned there. So what we're here for, what we in Regenesis are here for, is to be of service to the people that are ready to begin to make the change, to begin to explore the change. We've got a lot of it together. We've been working on this for nearly 40 years. So we've been trying to strip down the practical roadmap that organizations need to regenerate themselves, to recalibrate, to recreate themselves, sometimes, in some ways, from scratch. And as you will know from hearing us talk before in these sessions, we think there are three fundamental pathways that need to be addressed. We need to get people talking. We need to get people aligned. And for that, we have a number of big tools. We call it intentionalize. What do people want? Where are they going? What's important to them? So all of those things start to come together. Once we know a bit more clearly how we draw all our energy for change together, we can then begin to strategize the way forward in our organization, in our team, or even for me as an individual. What's my strategy going forward? We need to make sure then that each individual on whom we will rely has the support and the encouragement and the help to do the thinking, so that we all work together in a much more coherent way, and probably now in a way that is not jingoistic in terms of nationalism, but is much more cognizant that we as individuals live in houses, in streets, in communities, perhaps in counties, perhaps in bigger areas or in cities, but ultimately in our country. And then we perhaps live on a continent, and then we perhaps live, well, we are all members, we're all citizens of the world, ultimately. So we have responsibilities to each other. So we need more thinking about how we're running our businesses in that regard. And we need to think of many new ways. And that's when we need all of us to begin to innovate and try and find better, more in line ways with what is needed. So all very important elements here. So aligning people is part of it. And then once we've got that together, we can then begin to maximize flow and catalyze expansion in a much more appropriate way. And what Regenesis is doing is just helping organizations get ready to survive what could be quite a difficult period by tapping into the hidden assets, the hidden potential, and unlocking that so that it's available for use now. And any organization that can maybe add 2 or 3 or 4% to its profitability right now, well, it may not ultimately result in more profit because there are arduous times to be encountered, but hopefully it will really help. And then when the better times come, it's obviously going to separate those organizations that have done the work way ahead of those that haven't. So with these tools, organizations can begin that internal repair, turning talent, capability into monetizable growth and impact. Those that do this now will be in a far stronger position economically and socially when the next wave of shocks or improvement shifts arrives. So they will not just survive, but thrive where others storm. So I don't know, there's a lot more I can say at this stage. I think we've explored this as far as we're able today, but obviously it's a subject we're going to come back to again and again, one way or another. So Angela, What does this mean for individuals, our leaders, our teams, our citizens? Can you help us get more clarity here?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. Absolutely. The truth is, nations won't thrive unless individuals and organisations evolve. We now need people with maturity, creativity and coordination skills to lead in complexity. Skills like strategic empathy, value orchestration, regenerative systems thinking. The Regenesis growth engine helps meaningful change for individuals and their teams. As Thomas was saying, we can break this down by aligning people, secondly, maximising flow and catalysing expansion. Those are the three keys that you've just mentioned, Thomas. But these aren't just concepts, they're a path. And every organisation, whether it's a startup or a legacy enterprise, can walk this path now. Because Regenesis isn't a product, it's a movement. It's a way of restoring human brilliance, societal dignity, and economic sanity. Let me just leave you with this vision. A vision where a world businesses are partners in national resilience, where economies don't exploit but uplift, where work is dignified, not dehumanized, where we live not in fear of the future, but as co-creators of a shared and prosperous destiny. By embracing systems that regenerate rather than deplete, by aligning values with action, and by choosing growth that honours people, the planet and prosperity equally, we can thrive in the de-globalized world, not in isolation, but through deeply local, deeply human, deeply intelligent design. Let's build that world together. So thank you for joining us today. We are all the future. Let us build it the right way together. And until then, I'm going to wish you a goodbye from CS Rajiv Bajaj, Prem Kumar AS, Thomas Welsh, and from me, Angela Ellery. And you can contact any of us on LinkedIn, and let's talk next steps. In next week's session, we'll be talking about interventionists, why capability matters. Until then, have a great week, and thank you for listening.